Everyone is very talented. We're going to have to come with our A game.
I think BYU will also come in with a chip on their shoulders because they feel like they've got something to prove.
Two defenses that have been stopping the run well, and two offenses that have been struggling to score some points.
Big game, BYU at Arizona State coming up Saturday afternoon. Welcome back to Studio B. Jarom Jordan alongside Jason Shepard for a preview of the matchup between the Sun Devils and the Cougars. We welcome in Chris Karpman, publisher of SunDevilSource.com for 24/7 Sports. Chris, welcome to the program. We're excited about the game Saturday, man.
Good to be with you guys. It's definitely the biggest game in ASU probably since 2014. So it's going to be exciting.
It's been a minute, and preseason, nobody thought that this would be the matchup that would be perhaps deciding one of the teams to go to the Big 12 title game.
It's a fun year, right? The expansion of the Big 12, college football playoff conversation, 12 teams. It's felt like, for ASU at least, this has already been a playoff for the last few weeks because they have not been able to afford losing any game. And they continue to exceed expectations, beating Kansas State, a ranked opponent on the road, their most impressive win of the season, and now they're going to have to do it again if they want to stay alive.
I think a lot of people, the initial answer to this question would be Scatterboo. What would you say is the biggest strength or maybe the identity of this team? Because saying Scatterboo, it could be accurate, but I think it somewhat shortchanges the entire team and what the entire team has been able to do. So what do you think is the strength and the identity of this team?
I would say that he personifies the strength and the identity of the team, which is cultural toughness. He did a great job leading the off-season workouts, got more athletic, leaner, improved his body, his athleticism, breaking off a lot more explosive runs, 1,000 rushing yards, 300 receiving yards, the only player in FBS to accomplish that. And I think that personified what they were trying to be and what they're all about. Kenny Dillingham loves to talk about, we're going to have more fun working harder than any team in the country. And when you look at similarities between ASU, BYU, even Utah, where Kalani Sitake and some of his assistants came from, you see a through line, which is that cultural toughness, tenacity, and that is why I think that this game is as big as any in the Big 12 this season.
It's going to be fun for a million reasons. One-score games, both teams have been good in these. Arizona State 5-1, BYU 4-1 in those. Do you feel like this could come down to one score and that could tip it?
That's my expectation. ASU's done a great job coming from behind in some of these games, fourth quarters. And I feel like these teams are very evenly matched, and it's going to be very competitive. They're among the top, if not the two top teams in turnover margin. So my sense is we're going to be looking at a nail biter here probably in the fourth quarter.
Well, we don't want to shortchange what Sam Leavitt's done coming in at the quarterback position. And honestly, the guy's just a tough guy. He's a good quarterback, but he's just tough, and he's willing to put his body out there for his team. What has he meant to this program coming in this season?
He also embodies this identity that they have. He suffered a cracked rib earlier in the season, only missed one game. He's someone that will dive head first, trying to go pick up first downs. There's some similarities with Jake Retzlaff. I know you guys have him on the screen there, and they both have a lot of moxie, tenacity. They're fiery in terms of the way that they play. That I think is infectious across the rosters that they have. And where I've seen improvement with Leavitt throughout the season is with his footwork, his ability to throw the ball on time, accurately down the field. That was an issue early on in the season as he worked to get chemistry and timing down. But he's only thrown 4 interceptions. He throws very few jeopardy balls for a young first-year starting quarterback. BYU's been great at taking away the football from opponents, and so I'm interested to see which team comes down on the top end of that one this week.
Yeah, protecting the football, he's been incredible at it. BYU's been taking it away a ton, but as you mentioned, turnover margin the same. Also with Sam Leavitt, his brother Dallin was at BYU for a couple of years before he went to Utah State, played in the NFL for a few years. Their dad played here. I know Sam was on BYU's radar from Michigan State when he went in the portal. And then in the Valley of the Sun, there's a ton of BYU fans. So the connections are strong. What kind of atmosphere and crowd do you expect given the excitement for ASU football again this season and the number of BYU fans who live in the Valley?
Yeah, this is going to be a sellout. Should be a great environment. Kenny Dillingham said that it's actually been louder on third downs in home games than it has been on the road, which has led to some breakdowns for ASU's defense due to some communication issues. So both of these teams are going to have to be prepared with silent snapping cadence and anything else that they have to do to make sure that they're able to execute. I think this will be one of the best atmospheres that we've seen in a very long time, probably going back to when ASU won 10 games back-to-back in 2013 and 2014. ASU hosted Notre Dame in 2014. The teams are ranked 9 and 10 nationally, and that was probably the biggest game that we've seen in the stadium in a long time. We have to go back between now and then to get to a game that has as much meaning. I've been to visit Provo, and BYU atmosphere is as good as any as I've seen in the country. ASU had a terrible performance on the road up there a few years ago, and crowd noise was a major factor in ASU having its most penalized game in a very long time. And so I think ASU fans will probably want to repay that to some degree on Saturday.
It's wild to see Jaden Daniels' success, obviously, after he went to LSU and now with the Commanders. But in that game, it featured one of the craziest plays you and I and Shep have ever seen in our lives. The interception, the run back, Tyler Algier punching that ball out. That was a massive play in that game. I'm not sure BYU wins that game, Chris, if Tyler Algier doesn't make the play of his life.
100%. Merlin Robertson's going to be thinking about that for the rest of his I'm sure. And Tyler Algier was one of my favorite players to watch because of just his physical presence and his toughness and what he brought from a cultural standpoint. And you can't underestimate that. It's, in some ways, that is kind of similar to Cam Scadaboo. He's not ever going to be the fastest or the most elusive, but he's going to make you feel his presence and he's going to rally guys around him. And that Tyler Algier, to me, personified that.
With the 4 Pac-12 schools coming into the Big 12 this year, there was a lot of talk about, maybe some not too happy to be joining the Big 12 and leaving what they had in the Pac-12. With the way this season has gone, how's ASU feel about the Big 12 right now?
Yeah, I was just saying on one of our podcasts that this move was probably the best thing that could have happened to ASU athletics. Look at last year in the Pac-12. They had Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, 3 first half of the first round draft picks. And I felt like in almost every year, ASU was not as athletically talented as one or more teams in the Pac-12. But when you look at this conference, the quarterback play, other than maybe Shedeur Sanders, I don't think there's a first rounder out there this year. Maybe there won't be next year. We'll see. But the talent level, there's more parity. You guys, I'm sure, would agree that so many of these games are one-score games, point spreads of only 3 points, no matter what the records sort of are. And that's fun and exciting, but it also gives a team like ASU the opportunity to feel like it can be right there at the top of the conference in any given year if it performs and executes in the way that it has this year. Only the second season of Kenny Dillingham, they have almost 80 new scholarship players on their roster from the team that he inherited 2 years ago. And they're young, with a lot of guys who will be back next year. And this all together creates a very exciting time for Sun Devil fans.
Notably, Tate Romney, who was at BYU, is one of the linebackers who fits in there. I have a son named Tate, so I'm always a fan of Tate Romney. Love the family. I want to finish with this. These two teams will meet up for the first Big 12 game in men's basketball coming up on New Year's Eve in Provo. How do Bobby Hurley and the Sun Devils look so far at 5-1?
Pretty talented. They have a trio of freshmen. Jaden Quainance was a 5-star post player along with Josan Sanan. He's one of the best young shooters in the country. He's shooting over 50% from 3 through 6 games. They're 5-1. Defensively, they have some work to do to get on the same page and play with a consistent intensity. But they have a squad that can be competitive in the Big 12. I'm not going to say they're going to finish in the top half of the Big 12. There's a lot, like 7 or 8 teams that could be in the top 25 deep into the season. So it's a gauntlet, but they're going to threaten some teams and/or have some big wins this season, including potentially on the road.
Well, we look forward to the big game in football coming up on Saturday. Men's Soup's Big 12 opener coming up on New Year's Eve. Chris, we appreciate the time. Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate being with you guys. Thanks.
Check out Chris's stuff on sundevilsource.com for 24/7 sports.